Let's get started. Number 7. Listen to understand. Most people think they're amazing listeners. They're not. They're just waiting for the other person to stop talking so they can launch the speech they've been rehearsing since the first sentence. Ever notice how someone tells a story about their terrible day, and within 5 seconds another person jumps in with, "That reminds me of when my day was even worse"? Congratulations, the conversation has officially been hijacked. Real listening is weirdly rare because your brain loves talking about itself. Neuroscientists have found that thinking or speaking about yourself activates reward systems in the brain. In other words, your brain treats your own stories like they're premium entertainment. Everyone else? Supporting characters. The trick is to become curious instead of competitive. Ask questions. Let people finish. Actually react to what they said instead of loading your next joke like it's a cannon. Ironically, the people who talk the least often leave the biggest impression. Why? Because everyone walks away thinking, "Wow, they really got me." In reality, they mostly just let you keep talking. People don't always remember your advice, your jokes, or your opinions. They remember how they felt around you, and feeling heard is surprisingly addictive. Basically, listening is social magic, disguised as doing absolutely nothing. Number 6. Reading body language. Words are only part of the show. Your body is out here running an entire subplot without your permission. Crossed arms, avoided eye contact, feet pointed toward the exit like they're plotting an escape. These are all signals your brain sends before your mouth even catches up. The irony is that most people obsess over what to say next, while completely ignoring the fact that the other person's posture is screaming, "I want to leave this conversation." Studies on nonverbal communication suggest a huge chunk of how we interpret messages comes from tone and body language, not the actual words, meaning you could say something totally normal and still come across like a villain if your arms are crossed and your face looks like it's judging a crime scene. Learning to read this stuff isn't about becoming a human lie detector. It's about noticing the mismatch between what someone says and what their body is doing. Someone says, "I'm fine," while staring at the floor and gripping their coffee cup like it owes them money. That's not fine. That's a distress signal in disguise. Once you start noticing these cues, conversations stop being just audio and start being full-blown data. Basically, people are constantly leaking information through their posture, and social skill is just learning to stop ignoring the leak. Number 5. The art of small talk. Small talk gets treated like the broccoli of conversation. Nobody wants it, everyone tolerates it, and somehow, it's still good for you. You groan through, "Nice weather we're having," roll your eyes at, "How about that traffic?" and completely miss that small talk isn't about the content, it's about the ritual. Your brain is wired to see unfamiliar people as mild threats, thanks to a few 100,000 years of new person could be a saber-toothed tiger in disguise. Small talk is basically a truce flag, a low-stakes way of saying, "I'm not a predator, please don't run." That's why skipping straight to deep topics with strangers feels so aggressive. You're bypassing the social handshake and diving into their emotional basement uninvited. People who are naturally good at small talk aren't secretly fascinated by everyone's weekend plans. They've just learned to treat it like a warm-up lap instead of the actual race. It's not about being interesting, it's about making the other person feel safe enough to eventually say something real. Skip this step, and you're the guy asking, "So what's your biggest fear during an elevator ride?" Basically, small talk is social bubble wrap annoying, kind of pointless looking, but it stops things from shattering on first contact. Number 4. Handling awkward silence. Somewhere along the way, humans decided silence is basically a social crime scene, and someone has to be blamed for it. The second a conversation goes quiet, your brain panics like an alarm just went off, even though literally nothing bad happened. This is your nervous system misreading a pause as a threat, because ancient humans who sat in silence around potential danger didn't always survive to pass on their genes. But modern silence isn't a predator, it's just silence. The problem is people rush to fill it with nervous, rambling, weird jokes, or blurting out something deeply personal just to make the discomfort stop. That's how you end up explaining your entire medical history to a barista. The actual skill here is tolerance, letting a pause exist without treating it like an emergency. Comfortable silence is honestly a flex. It signals confidence, like you're not desperate for constant noise to prove you're likable. People who are good with silence let it breathe, maybe smile, maybe sip a drink, and let the next thing come naturally instead of forcing it. Basically, silence isn't your enemy, it's just your brain being a drama queen about empty space. Number 3. Setting boundaries. Somewhere along the way, boundaries became a scary word, like setting one makes you the villain in someone else's story. In reality, boundaries are just information you're telling people the terms and conditions of interacting with you, like a software update nobody reads but everyone needs. Most people avoid setting them because saying no triggers a very old fear: rejection. Your brain still partly believes that if the group kicks you out, you're basically doomed. Because for most of human history, being alone meant being lunch for something with teeth. So you say yes to things you hate, agree to plans that ruin your week, and let people walk over you like a welcome mat with feelings. The skill here isn't being rude, it's being clear, saying, "I can't do that," without a 10-minute guilt-ridden apology tour attached to it. People actually respect boundaries more than you'd think, because clarity removes guesswork, and nobody enjoys guessing what you're secretly annoyed about. Basically, a boundary isn't a wall, it's a sign that says, "This is how you get the best version of me," which, frankly, everyone should be posting. Number 2. Apologizing properly. A bad apology is basically an insult wearing a costume. "Sorry you feel that way" isn't an apology. It's a passive-aggressive magic trick that makes the blame disappear from you and reappear on the other person. Real apologies require something most people hate doing: admitting fault without immediately following it with a "but." Your brain resists this because owning a mistake feels like a hit to your identity, like admitting you're flawed threatens the whole "I'm a good person" narrative you've built. But a proper apology, naming what you did, acknowledging the impact, and not making excuses, actually repairs trust faster than pretending nothing happened. People don't need perfection, they need acknowledgement. Skipping that step is how small conflicts turn into years-long grudges over something as dumb as forgetting a birthday. Basically, a real apology is social duct tape, cheap, simple, and somehow holds together almost everything if you actually use it right. Number 1. Make people feel important. Here's a strange fact: almost everyone secretly wants the same thing. Not fame, not millions of dollars. Just to feel like they matter. You can see it everywhere. Someone lights up because you remembered a detail they mentioned last week. A cashier smiles because you thanked them like they were an actual human instead of a self-checkout machine with feelings. A coworker suddenly becomes friendlier because you gave them genuine credit instead of taking all the attention for yourself. Human beings are starving for recognition. The mistake people make is assuming compliments have to be huge. They don't. Specific beats dramatic every single time. Instead of saying, "You're smart, try," "I liked the way you explained that it actually made sense." Instead of saying, "Good job," mention exactly what they did well. Your brain remembers sincerity. It also detects fake praise faster than spoiled milk. Making people feel important isn't manipulation. It's noticing the value that was already there. Because everyone is fighting battles you can't see, and sometimes the smallest acknowledgement weighs more than the biggest speech. The easiest way to become memorable is surprisingly simple. Help other people remember their own worth. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe.